You feel it sometimes, don't you? That strange hollowness that arrives without announcement, settling into your chest like fog into a valley. You're scrolling through your phone at 11:30 on a Tuesday night, the blue light washing your face in that familiar glow. And somewhere beneath the surface of your awareness, something whispers that this isn't quite right. Not wrong exactly. Just not right. You have everything you need. Your refrigerator hums with abundance. Your cupboards hold more variety than a medieval king could have imagined. You can summon almost anything to your door with a few taps of your thumb. And yet, there's this feeling, this sense of something missing that you can't quite name. It's not hunger, not in the traditional sense. It's not loneliness, though maybe it's related. Or it's more like the ghost of a memory that isn't even yours, an echo of something your body remembers, even though your mind never experienced it. You stand in your kitchen, surrounded by convenience, by efficiency, by the triumph of modern logistics, and you feel somehow less than full. You tell yourself you're being irrational. You tell yourself that nostalgia is a liar, that the past was brutal and short and filled with suffering you can barely imagine from your climate-controlled apartment. You tell yourself that you're lucky, that you live in an age of miracles, that your ancestors would weep with joy to see the ease with which you move through the world. And all of this is true, every word of it, but it doesn't touch the hollowness. It doesn't explain why sometimes, late at night, and you find yourself thinking about a world you never knew, missing something you never had. The corner store is gone now. Maybe not the physical building, not everywhere, not yet, but the thing it represented, the social architecture it supported, that has mostly dissolved into the efficient stream of commerce that flows invisible through fiber optic cables. You can have groceries delivered while you sleep. You can reorder your regular items with a voice command. You never have to see another human face to feed yourself. Never have to exchange words with anyone. Never have to participate in the small daily theater of being recognized as someone who exists. This is what we call progress. And it is progress in almost every measurable way. It's faster, cheaper, more convenient, less effortful. You save time. You save money. You save energy. You save everything except the thing you didn't know you were spending. Think about the last time you bought bread. Actually, stop and think about it. Where were you? Who did you see? What did you say? Was there any exchange beyond the transaction? Any recognition beyond the scan of a barcode or the tap of a card? Did anyone say your name? Did anyone notice you were there? Did you notice anyone else? For most of human history, for the vast majority of the time our species has walked this earth, buying bread was never a solitary act. It couldn't be. The acquisition of food was woven into the social fabric so tightly that you couldn't separate one from the other. You didn't just buy bread, you participated in bread. You showed up in the place where bread was, and in showing up, you were seen, you were counted. You were confirmed in your existence. The corner store was never really about the store. It was about the corner. It was about the place where paths crossed, where the private life of the home met the public life of the street, where you transitioned from being a solitary individual to being a member of something larger than yourself. It was a threshold space, a liminal zone, and like all such spaces, it held a kind of magic that we didn't recognize until it disappeared. You would walk there most likely. Not because you had to, though cars were less common then. You walked because the store was close, nestled into the neighborhood like an organ in a body, positioned where it could serve the homes around it. The walk itself was part of the ritual. You would pass other houses, other lives happening behind windows and doors. You might nod to Mrs. Chen watering her garden. You might hear Mr. Rodriguez working in his garage. You were moving through a landscape of human presence, a territory marked not by signs and property lines, but by the evidence of people living. And then you would arrive. The bell above the door would announce you. Not to you, but to everyone already inside. And this was important, this announcement, this small moment of public entry. You were not slipping in unnoticed. You were arriving. You were becoming present in a space where others were already present, and the fact of your arrival mattered enough to mark it with a sound. The person behind the counter would look up. They would see you. And here's the thing that's hard to explain to someone who has never experienced it. They would know you. Not everything about you, not your deepest secrets or your private struggles, but they would know you in the way that matters for daily life. They would know your name. They would know your face. They would know that you usually buy whole wheat, that you prefer your tomatoes firm, that you always forget to bring bags. They would know you as a regular presence in the small world of that store, and in knowing you, they would confirm that you existed, that you belonged, that you were part of the pattern. Mrs. Kowalski might be there, examining cans of soup with the intensity of a jeweler appraising diamonds. She would turn when you entered. She would say hello. She would ask how you were, and even though the answer was almost always fine or good or can't complain, the question itself mattered. Someone was asking. Someone cared enough about your continued existence to inquire after its quality. You were not invisible. You were not alone. You were held, however lightly, in a web of recognition. And then the stories would start, because they always started. Mr. Kim would mention that his daughter just got into college. The woman whose name you never quite caught, but whose face you knew, would talk about her cat's surgery. The teenager stocking shelves would complain about his chemistry teacher. The owner would tell you that the good bread, the one you like, just came in fresh this morning. He made sure to save you a couple loaves because he knows you come in on Wednesdays. These weren't grand narratives. They weren't dramatic or life-changing or particularly memorable. They were the small change of human interaction, the basic currency of community. But here's what they did. They reminded you that other people existed. They reminded you that those other people had lives as complex and real as your own. They reminded you that you existed in relation to those lives, that your presence registered in the consciousness of others, that you mattered in small but genuine ways. You would collect your items. You would move through the narrow aisles, your body navigating the familiar geography of the store. You would reach for the bread, and your hand would know exactly where to go, because this place was mapped in your muscle memory, inscribed in your physical knowledge of the world. This wasn't just any store. This was your store, the one you belonged to, the one that belonged to you in the complex reciprocity of regular patronage. At the counter, the transaction would unfold slowly. Not because anyone was inefficient, but because efficiency wasn't the only value being served. The owner would ring up your items, commenting on each one. The good olive oil today? Special occasion? These apples just came in, perfect for pie if you're making one. Haven't seen you in a few days, everything okay? The exchange of money was embedded in an exchange of attention, of recognition, of care, and you would leave different than you arrived. Not dramatically different. You hadn't undergone a transformation, but you had been seen, you had been heard. You had participated in the ongoing conversation of the neighborhood, the endless exchange of small observations and minor updates that wove individual lives into a collective fabric. You had received confirmation that you existed, that your existence was noted, that you belonged to something larger than yourself. You walk to the store now, when you walk at all, and it's different. The chain supermarket on the edge of the neighborhood is larger, cleaner, more efficient. The aisles are wider. The selection is overwhelming. You can buy bread from 6 different countries, each one precisely labeled with nutritional information and ingredient lists. You can compare prices with an app. You can scan your own items. You can pay without speaking to anyone. You can be in and out in 8 minutes, having exchanged not a single word, not a single meaningful glance, having existed in that space as completely alone as if you were the only person on Earth. This is better. In many ways, it's cheaper. It's faster. It has more options. It doesn't require you to maintain relationships or remember names or participate in social rituals you might find draining. You're free. Free from obligation, from expectation, from the mild demands of neighborly interaction. Free to be completely, utterly, efficiently alone. And yet, and yet, that hollowness, that sense of something missing, that feeling that you're moving through the world without quite touching it, without quite being touched by it, that strange grief for something you can't name, for a loss you can't specify, for a world that you're not even sure you'd want back if you could have it. You lie in bed at night, your phone charging on the nightstand, your groceries ordered and scheduled for delivery tomorrow between 2 and 4 p.m., and you wonder why you feel this way. You wonder why convenience feels like absence. You wonder why efficiency feels like loneliness. You wonder why having everything feels like having nothing at all. The problem isn't that you're ungrateful. The problem isn't that you're romanticizing the past or failing to appreciate the present. The problem is that you're a human being, and human beings are not built for this. Not built for this much isolation disguised as independence. Not built for this much efficiency stripped of relationship. Not built for a world where you can meet all your needs without ever being seen. Your body knows this, even if your mind doesn't. Your nervous system knows this. The ancient parts of your brain, the structures that were shaped across millions of years of social evolution, they know this. You are descended from people who lived in groups, who survived by maintaining bonds. See who died if they were expelled from the collective. Being seen wasn't a luxury for them. It wasn't a pleasant add-on to the real business of survival. Being seen was survival. Being known was safety. Being part of the daily exchange of recognition and attention and care was the difference between life and death. And those structures are still there, deep in your brain, deep in your body. They're still firing the same signals they fired 100,000 years ago. They're still watching for signs that you belong, that you're safe, that you're held in the awareness of others. They're still trying to do the job they evolved to do, which is to keep you alive by keeping you connected. But the world has changed faster than your brain can adapt. The world has built systems that can feed you and shelter you and keep you physically alive without requiring you to connect to anyone. The world has made it possible to survive in complete isolation, to meet every basic need while remaining essentially invisible to other human beings. And your body doesn't understand this. Your body doesn't know that you can survive without being seen. Your body is still sounding alarms, still sending distress signals, still trying to tell you that something is desperately wrong. So you feel restless, you feel hollow, you feel a grief you can't explain for a loss you can't name. You feel homesick for a home you never had, nostalgic for a world you never knew. And you wonder if there's something wrong with you, if you're broken somehow, if you're failing to adapt to the world as it is. But maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just human. Maybe you're experiencing the entirely natural consequence of living in a world that is optimized for everything except the thing that matters most, which is the basic human need to be recognized as someone who exists, to have your presence matter to someone, to participate in the daily exchange of attention and care that tells you that you belong, that you're safe, that you're held. The corner store where stories were currency. It sounds quaint when you say it like that. It sounds nostalgic, romantic, probably inaccurate. It sounds like the kind of thing people make up when they want to complain about the modern world, when they want to pretend the past was better than it was. And yes, the past was hard. Yes, it was limited. Yes, it had its own forms of suffering that you wouldn't want to invite back. But maybe it also had something that you need. Something that your body is built to need. Something that no amount of efficiency or convenience or technological progress can replace. Maybe it had a place for you in the world. Not a grand place, not a special place. Just a place. A spot in the daily pattern where you belonged, where your absence would be noticed, where your presence was confirmed by the simple fact of being seen. And maybe that's what you're missing. Not the past itself, but the thing the past provided without trying, the thing it couldn't help but provide, because the structure of daily life made it inevitable. A place in the world, a confirmation of existence, a reminder delivered in the mundane exchange of buying bread, that you were here, that you mattered, that you belonged. Your apartment is quiet. The city hums outside your window. Millions of people living separate lives in separate boxes, each one connected to the vast network of commerce and information, but disconnected from the immediate presence of others. You could go days without speaking to anyone face to face. You could meet all your needs, do all your work, maintain your entire existence without ever being truly seen by another human being. This is the world you live in. This is the world you've inherited. And somewhere in your body, in the ancient structures that remember a different way of living, a different way of being human, there's a quiet alarm sounding. Not loud enough to be conscious, not clear enough to name, just a steady signal, a persistent whisper, saying something is missing, as something is wrong, something essential has been lost. You tell yourself to stop being silly. You tell yourself to appreciate what you have. You tell yourself that you're lucky to live in this age, to have these conveniences, to be free from so many of the burdens that crushed your ancestors. And you are lucky. You are. But luck doesn't fill the hollowness. Gratitude doesn't answer the alarm. Understanding your privilege doesn't give you what you need. Because what you need is what every human has always needed. To be seen, to be known, to matter in the daily flow of life, to have your existence confirmed by others who are also trying to exist, who are also trying to belong, who are also trying to figure out how to be human in a world that keeps changing faster than bodies can adapt. The corner store is gone, or going, or transformed into something so different that it no longer serves the function it once served. And maybe that's fine. Maybe that's progress. Maybe that's the inevitable march of efficiency and convenience and technological advancement. But maybe it's also worth noticing what was lost. Maybe it's worth naming the hollowness. Maybe it's worth understanding that when you miss something you never had, when you grieve for a world you never knew, you're not being irrational or ungrateful or foolishly nostalgic. Maybe you're just being human. Maybe you're just listening to the deepest wisdom of your body, which knows what it needs to survive, and which is trying to tell you, in the only language it has, that survival isn't the same as thriving, that meeting your physical needs isn't the same as meeting your human needs, that being alive isn't the same as having a place in the world, and maybe that's where we need to start. Not with trying to bring back the past, because you can't and shouldn't and wouldn't really want to if you understood what it actually entailed. But with understanding what the past provided, what function it served, what need it met without trying. And then, maybe, just maybe, we can start to think about how to meet that need in the present, how to build into our modern lives the thing that corner stores once provided without anyone having to plan for it or think about it, or even recognize that they were providing it. A place in the world, a confirmation of existence, a daily reminder delivered in the mundane exchange of ordinary life that you are here, that you are seen, that you belong. But first, you have to understand where you came from. You have to go back, not to the corner store itself, but to the deeper pattern it represented. You have to remember what it meant to be human before the world was organized around efficiency, before isolation became the price of convenience, before you could meet all your needs without ever being truly seen. You have to remember what it felt like to have a place in the world. Let yourself drift back now, not to your own past, but to the past of your species, to the deep time when the patterns were forming that still shape your body, your brain, your basic sense of what it means to be safe. Close your eyes and let yourself remember what you never knew, what your body knows even though your mind never learned it. Wise what lives in your bones and your blood and the ancient structures of your nervous system. You are not alone in a room with a glowing screen. You are with your people, whoever they are, wherever they are. You are held in a web of attention and care that you don't have to earn or maintain or think about. You are part of something larger than yourself, and that something holds you the way water holds a fish, so completely and continuously that you don't even notice it until it's gone. This is where the story really begins. Not in the corner store, but in the pattern the corner store echoed. The ancient human architecture of belonging that we built our lives around for hundreds of thousands of years before we started building cities and markets and efficient systems of distribution. This is the world that shaped you. This is the world your body expects. This is the world you miss without knowing you're missing it. Let yourself remember it now. Let yourself feel what it felt like to be human in a world where being seen wasn't optional, where mattering to others wasn't something you had to achieve, where having a place in the world was as natural and inevitable as breathing. The morning begins before you're fully awake. You don't wake to an alarm, to a sharp sound designed to jolt you into consciousness, to a reminder that you have somewhere to be and something to do that has nothing to do with the rhythms of your body, or the light outside, or the people around you. You wake because the world around you is waking, because the sounds and smells and subtle shifts in the air are changing, because the baby two shelters over is crying and someone is talking in low voices, and there's the smell of fire being rekindled and the morning settling into itself. You don't wake alone. This is important. This is maybe the most important thing to understand about the deep past, about the world that shaped your nervous system and built the expectations your body still carries. You never wake alone. There are people within arm's reach of you, people whose breathing you heard all night, whose warmth you felt, whose presence was so constant and continuous that it didn't register as presence at all, but simply as the natural condition of existence. You open your eyes, and the first thing you see is other people. Maybe your partner, maybe your children, maybe your mother or your sister or the cousin who shares this sleeping space with your family. Maybe all of them. The shelter is small, smaller than your modern mind can quite imagine living in, and it's crowded with bodies and belongings and the evidence of life being lived in close quarters. There is no privacy. There is no personal space. There is no moment of solitary waking, of gathering yourself in isolation before facing the world. You are in the world the moment you open your eyes. You are with others before you're fully conscious. You are held in relationship before you have a chance to be alone. This feels claustrophobic to your modern mind. This feels overwhelming, invasive, exhausting. Your modern self needs space, needs time alone, needs to wake up slowly in a room of your own before you're ready to face other people. But your ancient self, the self whose patterns still run deep in your nervous system, your ancient self knew something different. Your ancient self knew that waking up with others meant waking up safe. It meant you survived the night. It meant the group survived the night. It meant you were still part of something, still held, still belonging. Your mother is already up, or maybe it's your aunt, or maybe it's your grandmother. The fire is being fed with small sticks, carefully placed to coax it back to life after the long night. The smoke curls up through the opening in the roof, carrying with it the smell that will mark this day, this morning, this moment of transition from sleep to waking. She looks over at you as you sit up. She doesn't say anything, doesn't need to. The look is enough. It says, "You're awake? Good. I see you. But you're here. We're all here. We made it through another night." This is the first confirmation of the day, the first of many, the first small moment of being seen, of having your existence acknowledged, of being counted as present. It happens before you're fully awake, before you've had a chance to wonder whether you matter, before anxiety or loneliness or isolation have a chance to take root. You matter because you're seen. You exist because you're acknowledged. You belong because you're here, and here is where your people are. The children are stirring now. Your younger sister is helping the baby, whose crying has settled into the fussy sounds of early morning hunger. Your older brother is already outside. You can hear him talking to the men who are discussing something, probably the plan for the day, where to hunt or forage, not what needs to be done. The rhythm of the morning is not individual, it's collective. You don't decide what to do today. You participate in what the group is doing. You don't plan your own schedule. You join the pattern that's already in motion. This sounds like a loss of freedom to your modern ears. This sounds like constraint, like limitation, like being trapped in someone else's plan. But your ancient self knew it differently. Your ancient self knew that having a clear role meant having a clear place. It meant knowing what was expected, what was needed, what your contribution would be. It meant not having to figure out your purpose or discover your meaning or create your own value. Your value was inherent in being part of the group. Your purpose was built into the pattern of daily survival. Your meaning was confirmed every moment by the simple fact that the group needed you to do your part. You eat together. Again, this is important. You don't grab something from the refrigerator and eat it standing up while checking your phone. You don't skip breakfast because you're running late. You don't have a protein bar in the car on your way to somewhere else. You eat with your people, sitting near the fire, sharing food that was prepared communally, that belongs to everyone, that represents the collective effort of hunting and gathering and processing and cooking. The food in your hands is not just nutrition. It's proof of relationship. It's evidence of cooperation. It's the physical manifestation of belonging. Someone asks you to pass something. Someone comments on the food. Someone tells a story from yesterday, as from the hunt or the gathering, something funny or frightening, or simply worth noting. You listen. You respond. You add your own observation. The conversation isn't deep or philosophical. It's not solving problems or exploring ideas. It's simply the ongoing exchange of attention, the constant flow of recognition, the daily confirmation that you are part of this, that your thoughts register, that your presence matters. And then the work begins. But work doesn't mean what it means to you now. It doesn't mean going to a separate place to do tasks for people you don't know in service of goals you don't fully understand. Work means doing what needs to be done, with the people who need to do it, in service of survival that benefits everyone including you. You're not working for a paycheck. You're working because the work directly sustains your life and the lives of everyone you know. Maybe you're gathering. You go out with the other women, or some of the women, or maybe a mixed group depending on what needs to be gathered and where. You walk together. You talk together. The whole time you're working, you're also socializing. You're also maintaining relationships. You're also participating in the endless exchange of stories and observations and small updates that weave individual lives into collective life. You learn which plants are ready, which areas are depleted, where the good tubers are this season. But you also learn who's worried about their child, who had an argument with their partner, who saw something interesting yesterday. The knowledge you're accumulating isn't divided into categories of important and trivial, of work-related and personal. It's all one thing. It's all part of knowing your world, which includes knowing the plants and knowing the people, knowing the landscape and knowing the relationships, understanding the resources, and understanding the social fabric. You can't separate them because they're not separate. The work is social. The social is work. Everything you do in relationship. Or maybe you're hunting. Maybe you're one of the men, or maybe you're a woman who hunts, or maybe you're young and learning, following along to see how it's done. You move through the landscape with others, reading signs, making decisions collectively, coordinating your movements without much need for words because you've done this 1,000 times, because you know these people and they know you, and because you can read their intentions in their posture and they can read yours. The hunt might take hours, it might take days, but you're never alone. You're never isolated. Even in the moments of quiet stalking, of careful approach, of held breath and focused attention, you're aware of the others, you're coordinated with them, you're part of a collective effort that only works because everyone does their part. And when the hunt succeeds, When you bring down the animal, the victory belongs to everyone. The meat will be shared. The story will be told and retold. Your role in it will be acknowledged. You will be seen as someone who contributed, someone who matters, someone who belongs. The day unfolds in this rhythm of collective activity and constant social exchange. You're never doing something completely alone. You're never isolated from others for extended periods. Even tasks that require individual focus happen in the presence of others, in the context of relationship, as part of the larger pattern of group life. You might be working on a tool, shaping stone or bone, focused on your hands and the material. But you're doing it near the fire where others are also working, where children are playing, where someone is telling a story, where life is happening all around you. And people see what you're doing. They comment on it, they notice your skill, or offer a suggestion, or simply acknowledge that you're there, working, contributing. You're not invisible. You can't be invisible. You're too close to others, too constantly in their field of vision, too much a part of the collective pattern to disappear into solitary effort. And this is exhausting to imagine from your modern perspective. This sounds overwhelming, intrusive, claustrophobic. Where's the time for yourself? Where's the space to think your own thoughts, to be alone with your own mind, to retreat from the demands of others? And yes, maybe there were moments of solitude, brief windows when you could slip away from the group for a little while. But they were the exception, not the rule. The default condition of human life was presence with others. The baseline was relationship. The normal state was being seen. And here's what that meant. You never had to wonder if you mattered. You never had to construct a sense of purpose or search for meaning or figure out where you belonged. You mattered because the group needed you. You had purpose because survival required your contribution. You belonged because there was no option not to belong, because the structure of life made isolation impossible and made participation inevitable. The evening comes. The light fades. The group gathers back together. Those who went different directions during the day returning to the central place, the fire, the shelter, the place that marks this group as distinct from other groups, as a bounded unit of belonging. You share food again. You share stories again. Someone might be making music, beating a rhythm, singing something. Someone might be working still, finishing a task by firelight. Children are playing or already sleeping. Elders are talking among themselves, the low murmur of long-practiced conversation. You're tired. Your body is tired from the day's work, from the walking or the carrying or the sustained effort of hunting or gathering or processing or making. But you're tired in a way that feels complete, feels satisfying, feels like the natural consequence of having spent your energy on something that mattered. You're not exhausted from stress or alienation, or the psychic drain of pretending to be someone you're not. You're tired from being fully yourself in the service of collective survival. And as you settle into sleep, as the fire dies down and the conversation's quiet and the night wraps around the group, you're surrounded by the breathing of others, by the sounds of your people settling into rest, by the evidence that you're not alone, that you belong, that you're held in this small constellation of relationship that will carry you through the darkness and into another morning. This was life. Not perfect life. Not easy life. Not life without suffering or fear or loss or hardship. People died. Children died. Partners died. Death was closer, more visible, more constant than anything you experience now. Disease was common. Injury was dangerous. Pain was part of the fabric of existence. The past was hard in ways that would break you if you had to endure them. But the past also held you in ways that you're not held now. The past gave you a place in the world without you having to earn it or create it or maintain it. The past confirmed your existence every moment of every day through the simple fact of being seen, being known, being part of a group that needed you and that you needed in return. Your nervous system was shaped in that world. Your sense of what it means to be safe, to belong, to matter, it was all calibrated to that pattern of constant social presence, of continuous recognition, of being held in a web of relationship that you couldn't escape even if you wanted to. And now, you live in a world that has dissolved that pattern, that has replaced constant presence with optional connection, that has made it possible to survive without ever being truly seen. And your body doesn't understand this. Your body is still expecting the pattern. Your body is still watching for the signs that you belong, that you're safe, that you're held. Your body is still trying to do the job it evolved to do, which is to keep you alive by keeping you connected. But the world has changed. The world has made connection optional. The world has optimized for independence and efficiency and personal freedom. And in doing so, it has removed the structures that once made belonging inevitable. So you feel the hollowness. You feel the restlessness. You feel the grief for something you can't name. Because your body is trying to tell you something true, something important, something that no amount of modern convenience can address. Your body is trying to tell you that you need what humans have always needed. To be seen, to be known, to matter in the daily flow of life. To have a place in the world that isn't something you have to create or earn or maintain, but simply something you have by virtue of being human, by virtue of being here, by virtue of being part of the collective pattern of survival. The corner store was never about the store. It was never about the bread or the efficiency of the transaction or the quality of the products. The corner store was about the corner, about the place where private life met public life, about the threshold space where you transitioned from being alone to being seen. It was a pale echo of that ancient pattern, a diluted version of that constant recognition, but it was something. It was a structure that made daily recognition inevitable, that required you to be seen, that gave you a place in the pattern of the neighborhood. And when it disappeared, when it was replaced by systems that didn't require you to be seen, that didn't depend on a recognition, that could function perfectly well with you remaining invisible. Something was lost. Not everything. Not the most important things. You have advantages your ancestors couldn't dream of. You have freedom they couldn't imagine. You have options and opportunities and possibilities that would seem like magic to them. But you don't have what they had. You don't have the guaranteed place in the world. You don't have the inevitable recognition. You don't have the structure that confirms your existence every day through the simple fact of being seen by people who know you, who expect you, who notice when you're there and when you're not. And maybe that's what you're missing. Maybe that's the hollowness. Maybe that's why buying bread feels empty, even though it's never been easier. Why meeting your needs feels lonely, even though you can do it entirely on your own. Why having everything feels like having nothing at all. You lie in your bed now in your quiet room, in your private space. You're safe, you're warm, you're fed. You have everything you need for physical survival, but you're alone in a way that humans were never meant to be alone. You're disconnected in a way that your body doesn't recognize as safe. You're free in a way that feels, to your ancient nervous system, frighteningly like abandonment. This isn't your fault. This isn't a personal failing. This isn't something wrong with you. This is the entirely predictable consequence of living in a world that has optimized for everything except what you actually need, which is the same thing every human has always needed. A place in the world, a confirmation of existence, a daily reminder that you're here, that you're seen, that you belong. The question isn't whether the past was better. It wasn't. The question isn't whether you should want to go back. You shouldn't. You wouldn't survive a week in the world your ancestors navigated daily. The question is, what did the past provide that you still need? What function did it serve that your body is still expecting? What pattern did it establish that your nervous system is still calibrated to? And once you understand that, once you can name the thing that's missing, maybe you can start to think about how to meet that need in the present. Not by recreating the past, but by understanding what it gave you and finding new ways to provide it. New structures, new patterns, new rituals of recognition and belonging that fit into the modern world while honoring the ancient needs that haven't changed just because the world has. But first, you have to feel it. You have to let yourself acknowledge the loss. You have to stop pretending that convenience is the same as connection, that efficiency is the same as recognition, that being able to survive alone is the same as being able to thrive in relationship. Let yourself feel the hollowness now. Let yourself acknowledge the grief. Let yourself recognize that when you miss something you never had, when you long for a world you never knew, you're not being foolish or irrational or ungrateful. You're being deeply, profoundly, essentially human. You're listening to the wisdom of your body, which knows what it needs even if your mind doesn't, which remembers the pattern even if you never experienced it, which is trying in its ancient language to tell you something true. You need to be seen. You need to matter. You need to belong. Not as a luxury, not as a nice addition to an already complete life, but as a fundamental requirement of human existence, as essential to your well-being as food and water and shelter, as necessary for thriving as air is for breathing. The corner store is gone. The ancient pattern is broken. The structures that once made recognition inevitable have dissolved into systems that make isolation possible. This is the world you live in. This is the world you have to navigate. And pretending that it's fine, that you don't need what was lost, that you should be satisfied with what remains, that's not going to help you. That's just going to make the hollowness deeper, the grief more confusing, the restlessness more persistent. So let yourself feel it. Let yourself acknowledge it. Let yourself understand that the thing you're missing is real, is valid, is worthy of attention and grief and the effort to address. And then maybe you can start to think about what to do about it. How to build connection into a world of convenience. How to create recognition in a landscape of anonymity. How to establish belonging in a culture of independence. How to meet the ancient needs with modern solutions, honoring what you are while living in the world as it is. But we're not there yet. We're still in the feeling, still in the acknowledgement, still in the recognition that something real has been lost, that the loss matters, that your grief is valid even if you can't fully articulate what you're grieving for. Breathe into that space now. Let yourself be with it. Let yourself feel the weight of it, the depth of it, the truth of it. You're not broken. You're not ungrateful. You're not failing to adapt. You're just human. We're living in a world that has forgotten what humans need, experiencing the entirely natural consequence of that forgetting. The night is deep now. The city has quieted. The glow of screens continues in 1,000 rooms, in 10,000 rooms, in rooms beyond counting, each one containing a person who is alone, who is connected to everything except the thing that matters, who has access to the whole world except the small corner of it where they might be seen. You think about tomorrow. You think about the grocery delivery, the efficiency of it, the convenience of it, the time it will save you. You think about how you won't have to talk to anyone, won't have to be seen by anyone, won't have to participate in any social ritual or exchange any small talk or acknowledge your membership in any community. You think about how easy it will be, and how simple, how utterly without friction. And maybe, just maybe, you let yourself acknowledge that easy isn't always better, that simple isn't always sufficient, that a life without friction might also be a life without contact, without connection, without the rough edges where people meet and recognize each other and confirm each other's existence. The bell above the door has stopped ringing. The owner who knew your name has retired or died or moved away. The neighbors who used to gather in the aisles have found more efficient ways to shop. The teenager who stocked the shelves has gone to college, to a bigger city, to a life where nobody knows him by the simple fact of his regular presence. The corner is still there probably, but it's just a corner now, just an intersection of streets, just a geometric fact of urban planning. It's not a place anymore. It's not a threshold. It's not a crossing point where the private meets the public, where individual lives intersect with collective life, where you're required by the simple structure of daily necessity to show up and be seen. And you miss it, even though you never knew it, even though your life never included it, even though you're too young to remember corner stores as anything other than the boutique artisanal recreations that sometimes appear in gentrifying neighborhoods, charging premium prices for the simulacrum of community. You miss it because your body misses it, because your nervous system is calibrated to expect it, because the deepest structures of your brain are still waiting for the daily confirmation of existence that such places once provided. This is the paradox of modern nostalgia. So you miss things you never had. You grieve for losses you never experienced. You feel homesick for places that never existed, at least not in the form you imagine them. And yet, the feeling is real. The grief is genuine. The sense of loss is valid, even if the thing being lost is more pattern than place, more function than form, more about what was provided than about any specific provision. Your ancestors didn't go to corner stores. They didn't have stores at all. They had the fire, the gathering place, the daily rhythm of collective survival that made recognition inevitable and belonging assumed. But they had the same need you have. They needed to be seen. They needed to matter. They needed confirmation that they existed, that they belonged, that they were part of something larger than themselves. And the structure of their lives provided it automatically, continuously, inevitably. Then came agriculture, then came villages, then came towns, then came cities. And each transition changed the pattern, diluted the recognition, made belonging less automatic and more conditional. But for a long time, for most of human history, even after we started settling down, the basic structure held. You still lived near the people you knew. You still participated in daily rituals of recognition. You still had to show up in shared spaces, to be seen by familiar faces, to participate in the ongoing exchange of attention and acknowledgement that confirmed your place in the world. The corner store was a late echo of that pattern, a remnant adapted to the industrial age, a small-scale structure embedded in the larger-scale anonymity of urban life. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't universal. It worked better in some places than others, better for some people than others. It carried its own problems, its own forms of exclusion, its own way of making some people belong while making others feel like outsiders. But it did something that mattered. It created a structure where recognition was likely, where regular customers became known, where daily necessity created daily interaction, where buying bread meant participating in a small ritual of mutual acknowledgement. It wasn't the deep recognition of tribal life, wasn't the complete belonging of living with the same 100 people your entire life. But it was something. It was a place in the pattern. It was a confirmation of existence. It was a reminder, delivered in the mundane exchange of commerce, that you were seen, that you were known, so that you were part of something, even if that something was just the neighborhood, just the collection of people who shared a geography and a set of daily needs. And then it was gone, or going, replaced by supermarkets, then by big box stores, then by delivery services, then by the complete abstraction of commerce into digital interfaces that require no human contact at all. Each step was justified. Each step made sense in terms of efficiency, of cost, of convenience. Each step gave you more options, more freedom, more control over when and how and where you met your needs. Each step also removed a structure of recognition. Each step made it more possible to be invisible. Each step reduced the likelihood that anyone would notice you, would know you, would confirm your existence through the simple fact of regular interaction. This is what we call progress. And it is progress in almost every measurable way. It's objectively better to have cheap, abundant food available without effort. It's objectively better to have options and choices and the ability to meet your needs on your own schedule. It's objectively better to be free from the obligations and expectations and judgments of local shopkeepers and nosy neighbours. But objective improvement doesn't prevent subjective loss. Making things better in one dimension doesn't mean you haven't made them worse in another. And the dimension that's gotten worse is the one your body cares about most, the one your nervous system is built to monitor, the one that determines at the deepest level whether you feel safe or threatened, held or abandoned, connected or alone. You can survive in isolation. Your body knows this now, has learned it through the demonstration of your continued existence despite minimal daily recognition. You can meet all your physical needs without being seen by anyone. You can go days, weeks even, without a meaningful interaction, without being known by another person, without participating in any exchange of mutual recognition. And you'll survive. You'll keep breathing, keep eating, keep moving through the world. But surviving isn't the same as thriving. Meeting physical needs isn't the same as meeting human needs. Being alive isn't the same as feeling like you have a place in the world. Your body knows this too. Your body knows the difference between the minimal conditions for survival and the optimal conditions for well-being. Your body knows that you were built for more than solitary persistence. Know that you evolved in conditions of constant recognition. That your nervous system expects to be held in a web of social awareness that confirms your existence and your belonging. And when that expectation isn't met, when the recognition doesn't come, when you can go days without being truly seen, your body sounds an alarm. Not a loud alarm, not an emergency, just a quiet, persistent signal. A sense that something is wrong, a feeling of hollowness, a restlessness that you can't quite place, a grief that you can't quite name. This is what you're feeling now, lying in your quiet room, in your private space, in your modern life of unprecedented convenience and profound isolation. This is the signal your body is sending, the alarm it's sounding, the message it's trying to deliver in the only language it has. Something is missing. Something essential has been lost. Something your body needs. Something your nervous system expects. Something you were built to have as part of the basic structure of human existence. And the hardest part, the part that makes it so difficult to address, is that the thing being lost isn't something you can point to. It isn't a specific relationship or a particular place or a concrete structure you can identify and restore. It's more diffuse than that, more atmospheric. It's the entire ambient condition of being regularly seen, of mattering in small ways to multiple people, of participating in a web of recognition that holds you without you having to think about it. The corner store wasn't the thing itself. It was just one manifestation of the thing. One structure that happened to provide it, one pattern that happened to create the conditions where recognition was likely and belonging was confirmed. There were other manifestations. There are still other manifestations, other places and patterns where recognition happens, where mattering is confirmed, where belonging is established. But they're increasingly rare. They're increasingly optional. They're increasingly something you have to seek out and create and maintain, rather than something you encounter inevitably in the course of meeting your basic needs. And that's the shift that matters. That's the change that your body is responding to. Not that recognition is impossible, but that it's no longer inevitable. Not that belonging can't be found, but that it's no longer assumed. Not that you can't be seen, but that you have to work for it. Seek it out. And create the conditions for it rather than simply showing up in the world and having it happen as a natural consequence of being alive. You think about the people you know, your friends, your family, your colleagues if you have them. You think about how you maintain those relationships, the effort it requires, the intention it demands. You have to text, you have to call, you have to make plans, you have to coordinate schedules. You have to overcome the default condition of separation and create moments of connection through deliberate effort. This is fine. This is how relationships work in the modern world. This is the price of freedom and mobility and the ability to live your life according to your own choices rather than the constraints of geography and tradition. You choose your people instead of being stuck with whoever happens to be nearby. You create your community instead of being born into one. You build your web of connection through intention and effort instead of inheriting it as a given condition of existence. But there's a cost to this. The cost is that connection requires work. The cost is that belonging requires effort. The cost is that being seen isn't something that just happens, but something you have to make happen over and over, continuously, or it stops happening at all. And your body doesn't fully understand this. Your body expects belonging to be the default, connection to be inevitable, recognition to be a given. Your body evolved in conditions where you couldn't not be seen, where you couldn't not matter, where you couldn't not belong, because the structure of survival made all of these things automatic. Your body is still waiting for that, still expecting it, still sending alarm signals when it doesn't come. So you feel restless, you feel hollow, you feel like something is missing even when you have everything you need. Because you do have everything you need for physical survival, but you don't have everything you need for the kind of thriving your body expects, the kind of social embeddedness your nervous system is built for, the kind of regular recognition that tells your ancient brain that you're safe, that you're held, that you belong. The solution isn't to go back. You can't go back. The world has changed too much, and you've changed with it. You couldn't survive in the conditions that shaped your ancestors, couldn't bear the constraints and limitations and hardships that came with the belonging they experienced. You need your freedom. You need your privacy. You need your ability to choose your life, rather than having it chosen for you by the accident of birth and geography. But maybe you also need to acknowledge what was lost in gaining those things. Maybe you need to recognize that freedom came at a cost, that privacy means isolation, that choice requires giving up the inevitability of belonging. Maybe you need to understand that your restlessness isn't irrational, that your hollowness isn't a personal failing, that your grief for something you never had is actually your body's wisdom trying to tell you what you need. And maybe, once you understand that, you can start to think about solutions. Not about recreating the past, but about meeting the need in the present. Not about bringing back corner stores, but about understanding what they provided and finding new ways to provide it. Not about returning to tribal life, but about building into modern existence the recognition and belonging and mattering that human nervous systems are built to expect. But that's work for later. That's problem solving. That's the practical application of understanding. Right now, we're still in the understanding itself, still in the recognition of the loss, still in the acknowledgement that what you're feeling is real and valid and worthy of attention. So let yourself rest in that understanding. Let yourself feel the weight of it, the truth of it, the relief of finally being able to name what's been troubling you. You're not broken. You're not ungrateful. You're not failing to appreciate the modern world. You're just human, experiencing the human need for recognition, feeling the human grief when that recognition is absent, responding with human wisdom to the inhuman isolation of contemporary life. The corner store where stories were currency. It sounds romantic when you put it that way. It sounds like a fairy tale, a nostalgic fantasy, a made-up memory of something that never quite existed. But the thing it points to, the pattern it represents, that's real. That's as real as the hollowness you feel, as true as the restlessness that wakes you at 3 in the morning, as valid as the grief that rises up when you think about the world you live in and the person you are in it. You needed to be seen. You need to be seen. You will always need to be seen. This isn't a weakness. This isn't a flaw. This is what it means to be human, to have evolved in groups, to carry in your body the expectations and requirements of millions of years of social existence. You are built for recognition. You are built for belonging. You are built for mattering in the daily flow of life. And the world you live in has made all of those things optional, effortful, uncertain, has removed the structures that once provided them automatically, has optimized for everything except what you actually need. So you feel the loss. You feel the grief. You feel the hollowness where belonging used to be, where recognition was assumed, where mattering was inevitable, and that's okay. That's more than okay. That's your body working exactly as it should, sending you exactly the signals it's supposed to send, or trying to tell you exactly what you need to know. You need connection. You need recognition. You need to matter in small daily ways, to be seen by people who know you, to participate in the ongoing exchange of acknowledgement that confirms your place in the world. The question is what you do with that knowledge, how you meet that need, where you find that recognition, how you build belonging into a world that has made isolation the default condition of existence. But before you can answer those questions, before you can address the problem, you have to understand it. You have to feel it. You have to let yourself acknowledge the loss without immediately rushing to fix it or deny it or minimize it. So rest here for a moment. Rest in the understanding. Rest in the acknowledgement. Rest in the recognition that what you're feeling is real, is valid, is the natural response of a human nervous system to inhuman conditions. You're not alone in feeling this way. That's important to understand. You're not the only one who feels the hollowness, who misses what you never had, who grieves for a world you never knew. This is not a personal failing. This is a collective experience, a widespread response to a widespread condition. Millions of people, maybe billions, are feeling some version of what you're feeling, are experiencing some version of this loss, are carrying some version of this grief. The modern world has created unprecedented material abundance. It has solved problems that plagued humanity for millennia. It has given you opportunities and freedoms and possibilities that your ancestors could never have imagined. And it has also created a kind of isolation that is historically unprecedented, a kind of anonymity that no human nervous system evolved to handle, a kind of potential for going through life without being truly seen that would have been incomprehensible to any human who lived before the last few generations. You are living through an experiment, not one you chose, not one anyone planned, but an experiment nonetheless. The experiment of whether humans can thrive in conditions of unprecedented material comfort and unprecedented social isolation. Whether nervous systems built for constant recognition can adapt to optional connection. Whether bodies shaped by millions of years of group living can flourish in solitary abundance. And the answer, so far, seems to be complicated. You can survive. Clearly you can survive. Because you are surviving, because millions are surviving, because the species continues despite these radically changed conditions. But surviving isn't thriving. Persisting isn't flourishing. Being alive isn't the same as feeling fully human. And maybe that's what the hollowness is trying to tell you. Maybe that's what the restlessness means. Maybe that's what the grief is pointing toward. The recognition that survival isn't enough, that you need more than the meeting of physical needs, that being human requires more than being alive. It requires being seen. It requires mattering. It requires belonging. Not as occasional treats or special moments or achievements you have to earn, but as the baseline condition of existence, as the default state of being, as something you can count on the way you count on air and water and the sun rising. And when that baseline isn't there, when that default state is absent, when you have to work for what should be given, your body knows. Your nervous system knows. The ancient structures in your brain that were shaped by millions of years of social existence, they know. And they send signals. And you feel those signals as hollowness, as restlessness, as grief. This is not a bug. This is a feature. This is your body working correctly, telling you what you need, sounding the alarm that something essential is missing. The question is whether you listen, whether you honor what your body is telling you, whether you take seriously the grief you feel for a world you never knew, understanding it not as nostalgia for a fantasy, but as wisdom about what humans actually need. Let yourself listen now. Let yourself honor it. Let yourself take it seriously, this grief, this hollowness, this restlessness. It's trying to tell you something true. It's trying to guide you towards something essential. It's trying to help you understand what you need so that you can start to figure out how to get it. The corner store is gone. The ancient pattern is broken. The structures that made recognition inevitable have dissolved. But the need remains. The need is eternal, is built into your body, is as much a part of being human as the need for food or touch or sleep. You can't eliminate it. You can't reason it away. You can't convince yourself you don't need it just because the modern world doesn't readily provide it. You can only acknowledge it, honor it. Let it guide you toward what you actually need rather than what you've been told you should want. And what you need, what every human needs, what your body is built to expect, and your nervous system is calibrated to require, is to be seen, to matter, to belong, to have a place in the world that's confirmed every day by the simple fact of recognition, by the ongoing exchange of attention, by the daily ritual of being acknowledged as someone who exists, who is here, who is part of the pattern. This is not a small need. This is not a luxury. This is not something you can afford to ignore or minimize or dismiss as impractical nostalgia. This is a fundamental requirement of human flourishing, as essential to your well-being as any physical need, as necessary for thriving as sunlight is for growing. And the world has made it hard to meet. Not impossible, not completely unavailable, but hard, optional. Something you have to work for rather than something that's given as part of the basic structure of existence. So you work for it, or you don't work for it, or you work for it sometimes and not others. Or you work for it in ways that don't quite satisfy the need because they're not the same as the inevitable recognition that your body expects. And you feel the deficit, you feel the gap, you feel the hollowness where belonging should be. And maybe that's enough for now. Maybe understanding the hollowness, naming it, recognizing what it's trying to tell you, maybe that's enough. Maybe you don't have to solve it right now. Maybe you don't have to figure out how to build belonging into a world of isolation or create recognition in a landscape of anonymity. Maybe you can just rest in the understanding, in the acknowledgement, though in the recognition of your own need. Because recognizing the need is the first step toward meeting it. Understanding the loss is the first step toward addressing it. Honoring the grief is the first step toward healing it. So rest now. Rest in the understanding. Rest in the acknowledgement. Rest in the truth of what you're feeling and the validity of what you're missing and the wisdom of what your body is trying to tell you. You are not broken. You are beautifully, perfectly, essentially human. And humans need to be seen. Humans need to matter. Humans need to belong. This has always been true. This will always be true. The world may change, may optimize for other things, may make recognition optional and belonging effortful. But the need remains. The need is eternal. Man, the need is written in your bones and your blood and the deepest structures of your brain. So honor it. Listen to it. Let it guide you. Not toward impossible solutions or impractical nostalgia, but toward understanding what you actually need and starting to think about how to meet that need in the world as it actually is. The night is very quiet now. The world has settled into that deep stillness that comes in the hours before dawn, when even the city seems to pause, when the endless motion slows to something closer to rest. You're still in your room, still in your bed, still surrounded by the material comfort and solitary abundance of modern life. But maybe something has shifted. Maybe something has softened. Maybe the hollowness feels a little less frightening now that you understand what it is, now that you can name it, now that you know it's not a personal failing but a human need, not a weakness, but a wisdom, not a problem with you, but a problem with the world you're trying to live in. The corner store is gone, but the need it met remains. The ancient pattern is broken, but the expectation it established persists. The structures have dissolved, but your body still remembers, still expects, still requires what humans have always required, to be seen, to matter, to belong, not as achievement or accident or special occasion, but as the default condition of existence, as the baseline state of being human, as something you can count on, something that's given, something that's woven into the fabric of daily life, rather than something you have to create and maintain through constant effort. This is what you're missing. This is what the hollowness points toward. This is what your body knows even though your mind might deny it. What your nervous system expects even though the world doesn't provide it. What you need even though you've been taught to want other things. And maybe that's enough to know. Maybe that's enough to rest with. Maybe that's enough to carry you into sleep, into dreams, into whatever tomorrow brings. You are not alone in this need. You are not strange for feeling this way. You are not broken for missing what you never had. You are human. You are responding with human wisdom to inhuman conditions. You are listening to the deepest truth of your body, the ancient knowing of your nervous system, the eternal requirement of your species. You need to be seen. You need to matter. You need to belong. And understanding that need, honoring that need, taking seriously that need, that's not nostalgia. That's not weakness. That's not failure to adapt. That's wisdom. That's self-knowledge. That's the first step toward building a life that actually meets your needs rather than just allowing you to survive while feeling hollow. So rest now. Rest in that wisdom. Rest in that understanding. Rest in the knowledge that what you're feeling is real and valid and worthy of attention and care. The hollowness remains. The world hasn't changed. The structures that once made recognition inevitable are still gone. But maybe you understand it a little better now. Maybe you can hold it a little more gently. Maybe you can honor it as the wisdom it is, rather than dismissing it as the weakness you feared it might be. You are human. You need to be seen. This has always been true. And this will always be true. And knowing that, really knowing it, letting it settle into your bones, maybe that's enough for tonight. Maybe that's enough to let you rest. The embers are glowing now. The fire has burned down. The heat has faded to warmth. The light to a gentle glow. The stories have been told. The day has ended. The world is settling into silence. And you can rest. You can let yourself rest. You can close your eyes and settle into sleep, knowing that what you feel is real, that what you need is valid, that the hollowness is not emptiness, but a space waiting to be filled with what humans have always needed. Recognition, belonging, mattering, a place in the world, not in some imagined past, not in some impossible future, but here, now. In whatever ways you can find or create or stumble upon in the course of living your actual life in the actual world. But that's tomorrow's work. Tonight, you can just rest. Just be. Just let yourself feel the truth of what you need without having to solve it or fix it or figure it out. You need to be seen. And in understanding that, in acknowledging that, in honoring that, you are seeing yourself. You are recognizing your own need. You are mattering to yourself in this moment of honest recognition. And maybe that's where it starts. Maybe that's the first step. Maybe that's the beginning of building the recognition you need, the belonging you crave, the mattering that your body expects. Not by finding it all outside yourself, though that matters too, but by seeing yourself clearly, by recognizing your own needs, by mattering to yourself enough to take seriously what your body is trying to tell you. You are here. You exist. You matter. Not because you're productive or successful or admired or achieving anything particular, but because you're human, because you're alive, because you're experiencing what humans experience, needing what humans need, responding with human wisdom to the conditions of human existence. You matter. Let yourself feel that now. Let yourself rest in that. Let yourself be held by that simple truth. You matter. The world may not confirm it every day. The structures may not provide the recognition you need. The corner stores may be gone. and the ancient patterns broken, and the inevitable belonging dissolved into optional connection. But you matter. You exist. You are here. And in this moment, in this quiet space, in this gentle darkness, that can be enough. You can rest now. You can let yourself rest. You can close your eyes and settle into sleep carrying this knowledge, this understanding, this gentle recognition of your own humanity and your own needs and your own validity. You need to be seen. And tonight, in this moment, you are seeing yourself. You are recognizing yourself. You are mattering to yourself. And that is enough for now. That is enough to rest with. That is enough to carry you into sleep. So rest. Rest now. Rest in the understanding. Rest in the acknowledgement. Rest in the gentle recognition that you are human, that your needs are real, that your grief is valid, that your hollowness points towards something true and important and worthy of attention. You are here. You matter. You belong to yourself, if to nothing else yet. And that is enough. For now. For tonight. For this moment of quiet recognition. Rest. Let yourself rest. Let the world soften. Let the edges blur. Let the understanding settle into your bones without having to become action or solution or practical application. Just rest. Just be. Just exist in this moment of recognition. You are here. You are seen by yourself, if no one else. You matter. Rest now. The fire has faded to embers. The story has been told. The night holds you gently. Rest.